So I'm gonna drop in a comfortable cross-legged seat. Feel free to find any pose that feels right for you today. I'm just going to use this pose to kind of settle into the body, to quiet the mind, to check in with how we're feeling, and to start to connect with the breath, of course. So wherever you are, just start to notice, just start to observe. Check in with the physical body, the intellectual body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. Whatever those things mean to you. And as always, remember that this practice is your own. Feel free to adapt it. Feel free to move as your body is asking you to. Start to create this space for yourself just to be. Start connecting with the breath, just noticing the sound of the breath. Use that connection to start quieting the mind. Creating this little bubble for yourself, for your practice. Letting go of the future and the past. Just being present. Practicing non-attachment to your thoughts and just quieting that mind chatter. Take your time settling in. Whatever pose you're in, maybe start with a little body scan, just checking in first at the points where your body connects to the mat. Just noticing what you feel in those connections, how you're feeling in the feet and the sits bones, or maybe the heels, the legs, the back if you're in Shavasana. Maybe how you're feeling in the hips if you're in child's pose. And just scan the body, just checking in, just noticing. Whatever pose you're in, make sure that you're relaxed through everywhere, but you're not holding through the skin of the face or tensing through the neck or shoulders, or the feet or the hands. Just allowing your body to be. Allow your mind to let go of anything that's not serving you in this moment. Reconnect with the breath if you've lost focus. Enjoy the fullness of your inhales, and maybe let go of something on your exhales. Make sure wherever you are, you're nice and open through the chest. Able to connect with that deep breathing rhythm. Allowing yourself just to be, just to exist. When you feel that deep connection to yourself and the mat and the breath, and you might start to incorporate some easy movement. So if you're in child's pose or any other posture, find your way up to any comfortable seat. Take your time getting there. Settle in with that nice long spine from the crown of the head to the tip of your tail. Feel free to close your eyes or keep them closed at any time during the practice if it feels good. Or if you want to, you can gently bat the eyes open and just keep a soft gaze at some point in front of you. From there, we'll start to incorporate movement through the head and neck, maybe starting with some small circles with the nose. Maybe just checking out your range left to right, up and down. Just starting to check in with some nice, easy, organic movement. Making that deeper observation into how you're feeling today. You might notice some physical sensations, and just let those guide your body through the movement. So if you find a point of interest in your range of motion, connect with that. Notice it without judgment, and let that sensation dictate your movement. So like I always say, I like to tuck my chin to my chest and just roll back and forth to stretch through the back of the neck, especially early in the morning. Checking in there first, just incorporating some movement here. Noticing what you feel maybe in the shoulders, upper back, through the spine. Maybe reversing those circles if it feels good, or again, just checking out your range up and down, left to right, connecting with the neck, noticing what you feel through the shoulders, the traps, the rhomboids. And then when you feel good there, we'll bring it all back through center. Take your time getting there. Let's bring the palms together, extended elbows in front of the heart space. And then we're going to separate the palms, bringing them behind the back or somewhere near there, just pulling them apart, noticing your range there. Nice big stretch, connect with the breath, feel good about it. And then we'll slowly bring the palms back toward one another. We'll put one arm underneath the other. And you can either just bring palms to the upper back and walk the fingertips toward each other and you're in a self-embrace. Or you can come into eagle arms variation if that's your thing. Take what you need here. Wherever you are, on your next inhale, we'll lift the elbows. Exhale, curl inward. Bringing the elbows in toward the ribs, relaxing through the head and neck. Breathing deep into that upper back. Letting something go on your exhale. Connect with the breath and notice what you feel. Take one more cycle of breath. On your next inhale, we'll slowly rise up, planting the sits bones, lifting the elbows, coming back into that long spine, and unraveling at your own pace. Opening up the palms wide again, checking in with that range of motion again, just bringing palms together behind the back. We'll do the same thing, bringing palms together in front of us. This time put the opposite arm underneath. And find that self-embrace or eagle arms, whatever variation calls to you. Enjoy that embrace. On your next inhale, lift the elbows. Deep breath in. On your exhale, curl inward. Wrap the elbows in toward the ribs. Feel that expansion through the upper back. And breathe deep. Connect with the fullness of the breath here. Just notice, just observe without judgment. Take your time in this pose. When you're ready to come out, lead with your inhale, plant the sits bones, lift the elbows, slowly curl up, open up the arms, check out that range again, bringing the palms behind you at your own pace. And bring everything back through center when you're ready. Of course, feel free to take any other easy organic movement in between these poses. I like to roll my shoulders back sometimes, just press my chest out, check in there. And then we'll send the fingertips up toward the ceiling, palms facing each other, getting really long through the spine, feeling that length. Then we'll fold forward, letting the palms come down on the floor, on the mat, toward me, relaxing through the head and neck. Feel free to shake it out a little bit. Reconnect with the breath. Enjoy your inhales. Notice what you feel and where. You can stay nice and passive here. You can come down to the forearms if you want to, palms together or fingers interlaced. Or you can stay active through the arms, maybe walking the fingertips a little further from the body, just checking in. Feel free to explore, be curious. And then whatever shin is in front, we'll press into the fingertips and walk the fingertips over to that direction. So I'm going to walk my hands over to that right knee or somewhere near there. And same thing, just folding forward there, checking in, nice and passive through the arms, or maybe walking the fingertips a little bit further away. Whatever calls to you today. Breathe deep all the way down the side body into that left hip. Staying anchored and grounded through the hips, through the sits bones. Reconnect with the breath. Press into the fingertips. And when you're ready, only when you're ready, walk them over to that second side. Find your forward fold over that, in my case, left knee. Same thing, connecting with the breath here. You can relax through the arms or press into the fingertips, walk them a little further away. Whatever your body's asking you for, feel free to explore. Press into the fingertips when you're ready to walk them back through center. Plant the sits bones, plant the tailbone, slowly curl up, just dragging the palms back up toward the body. Take your time getting there. Once you're there, we're going to switch sides or switch shins. So put your opposite shin in front. We'll do the same thing at your own pace. Beginning just by sending the hands up toward the ceiling, palms facing each other, getting long through the spine. Once again, really reaching. Turn your palms toward me, hinge at the hips, and bring them all the way down toward the earth, resting them on the carpet, on the mat, wherever. Take a deep breath. Decide if you want to relax through the arms here, staying anchored through the hips. Or if you want to walk the fingertips a little bit further for a little deeper stretch. Whatever's calling to you. When you're ready, we'll press into the fingertips, walk them over to the side of the shin that's in front, in my case to the left. Melting down over that knee or somewhere near it, trying to keep the hips anchored, connected to the mat, grounded to the earth. And then checking in with that second side when you're ready, only when you're ready. Take your time, moving mindfully, just noticing the sensations along the way. Trying not to lose focus in transition. Staying connected to the breath and to the earth. If you want to incorporate a mantra for today's practice, it could be something themed around self-care. Like, for example, I can't fill the cups of others unless my cup is full. Or rest and rejuvenation re-energize me for the cause. Something that speaks to you, something that keeps you connected to the physical body, and also your intellectual, emotional, and spiritual needs. Press into the fingertips, walk back through center when you're ready, rooting down through the sits bones, through the tailbone, slowly curling back up to sitting. Roll the shoulders back, check in there, nice long posture through the spine. And let's just do a little seated twist. So we can bring the right hand to the top of the left knee, swim that left hand around behind you, maybe planting the fingertips or the palm, wherever is comfortable behind you. And then lifting up, twisting over that left shoulder, not forcing it, just checking in. Maybe looking over the left shoulder if you're able. Reconnecting with the breath. And slowly bringing it back through center when you're ready. Take it to the second side. Just bringing that left hand to the outside edge of the right knee. Guiding that right hand around and behind you. Planting the fingertips. Pulling that right shoulder back. Really rooting down through the hips. Through the tailbone. Maybe looking over your right shoulder. Checking in with the spine, detoxifying, breathing deep. Take your time on that side, and when you feel comfortable, go ahead and come back through center, slowly, gently, mindfully. Let's come forward onto all fours at your own pace. Let the breath guide you as you move. Try to stay present in the sensations of the body and maybe the sounds. And we'll come to tabletop or neutral spine, all fours position on the mat. When you're ready, knees under the hips, palms under the shoulders, and you know what to do here. We're going to check in with a little cat-cow warm-up. So sync up with your breath. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the tail toward the ceiling, maybe lift the gaze. And exhale, curl the low ribs inward, arching through the upper back, really connecting with the breath, moving at your own pace here. So on your inhale, drop the belly, pressing the ribs down toward the mat, rolling the shoulders back. And exhale, arching through the back like a Halloween cat, really enjoying these movements. And of course, as always, feel free to incorporate any other easy organic movement. So typically, I suggest doing that barrel motion, just pressing the ribs along the inside of an invisible barrel or tube. But you can also start to warm up through the hips here just by sending the hips to the right and then back, drawing big circles, coming forward through the left. So feel free to just keep the palms and knees connected to the mat and explore whatever your body's asking you to. Noticing what you feel in the upper back or elsewhere, without judgment, just starting to connect. Let's come from here into an extended child's pose, just bringing the big toes into touch, walking the knees as wide as is comfortable for you, and sending the hips back toward the heels, walking the hands forward a bit, bringing the forehead down toward the mat. Feel free to roll the forehead gently left to right, giving yourself a little massage through the forehead, compression in the sinus cavity, bringing some energy to that third eye space. Feel free to also just find stillness in this pose if you'd like. Maybe walk the fingertips a little bit further, feeling that little deeper stretch through the side body, through the shoulders, or wherever you feel it. Take your time in whatever variation you choose. And then maybe if you're ready, press into the fingertips, lift the forehead, walk the hands over to one side or the other, and once again melt down over that knee. Just checking in with the side body especially. Whatever side you're on, walk the opposite fingers a little bit further and notice what you feel. Try to keep a connection between the hips and the heels if you're able. When you've got what you need there, press into the fingertips, move at your own pace over to the second side. Reconnect with the breath if you've lost it. Notice what you feel. Put your mind's eye there. Just observe the sensations of the body. Connect that with the breath. Allow your body to relax. Take your time here. And when you're satisfied, press into the fingertips. Slowly come back through center. And from here, we'll just walk the hands up toward the body, Again, moving at your own pace. We'll bring the knees together so that you're sitting on your shins and the tops of your feet. We'll just stretch gently through the feet and ankles. So you can bring your palms to the tops of the knees. Let's start by bringing that left palm, left fingertips just underneath the front edge of that left knee. Pressing down with your right palm, we'll pull up with the left. Not forcing anything, just checking in with the front of the foot, the top of the foot, the front of the ankle. Reconnecting with the breath, finding that nice spinal alignment, maybe rolling the shoulders back, maybe closing the eyes, whatever feels good. Just checking in here. Notice, observe, and maybe enjoy the sensations that you're feeling. Put your mind's eye there and just notice. When you're ready to switch sides, do so mindfully, gently releasing that left knee, pressing it down toward the mat, curling the right fingers under the right knee, and gently pulling it up toward the chest, not forcing it, just checking in with your range. Staying connected to the breath and this beautiful self-care space that you're creating for yourself. When you feel satisfied there, let's check in one more time with a little spinal twist from this position. Same thing, just bringing that right hand to the outside edge of the left knee, staying in your seat, bringing the left fingertips behind, sitting up, lifting, twisting, wringing out the spine, releasing those toxins, connecting to the breath. Take it to that second side when you're ready. Moving at your own pace, as always. Maybe looking over that right shoulder. Bring it back through center when you feel good about it. Let's come forward onto all fours and just continue on walking the hands a little bit further. We're going to lower the hips toward the mat and come right into your cobra pose. So pressing the hips, pressing the pubic bone down toward the mat, opening up through the chest, finding that little mini back bend, maybe lifting the gaze or closing the eyes if it feels good. We'll lower down to the belly. Curl the toes under, press into the palms and press up for plank. Hold there for just a moment. Remind yourself how strong you are. Check in with the breath. Feel that connection to the earth. When you're ready, send the hips up toward the ceiling, toward the sky, finding your downward dog. Rotate the hands slightly outward. Heels do not need to touch the mat. Feel free to bend into the knees if you need to. And I always like to just, in these poses, just check in with easy organic movement. So like maybe bend into the knees one time, even if you don't need to. Press the hips up a little bit higher. Press up through the toes, through the feet. Feel free to explore before you settle into it. From here, let's pedal through the feet, coming onto the ball of one foot, pressing the other heel toward the mat. Take your time here, warming up a little bit, checking in with the hamstrings, building strength in the shoulders and the upper back. When you feel good about it, we'll plant that left foot toward the center of the mat. Lift that right leg up high, really reaching with your right foot, pointing the toes toward the ceiling, checking in with your range here. Don't lose the breath. Let's bend into that right knee, drop that right heel toward the left shoulder, and just pull that right hip open. Pull that right knee toward the ceiling just a bit. When you're ready, lift the gaze to between the palms. We'll bring that right foot all the way up and through and plant it there. Let's drop that left knee to the mat and come into a low lunge for starters. So you can unravel that left foot, and you can just stay right here with your fingertips framing that right foot, just maybe leaning into that a little bit toward the top edge of your mat. But you can also find a lot of exploration here. So we can hinge at the hips, come to an upright position with that left shin still planted on the mat. And just interlace the fingers and press into that right knee. Maybe lean back a little bit, find a little back bend. Or if you want to advance that, you can also release the fingers toward the mat, lead with them, bringing them up toward the ceiling, finding a little deeper back bend. Whatever calls to you, whatever your body's asking you for. Another thing I like to do from this pose is also just with the right hand on the knee, release the left hand to the ground, draw a big circle up and over for a nice side body stretch toward the right side. So feel free to try whatever your body's asking you to. It's your practice. Listen to the signals you're receiving from the body without judgment. And just give it what it's asking for. From here, we'll curl the left toes under, lift that left knee, left shin. We're going to take it to the second side, but first we'll flow. So send that right foot back for plank. Let's hold there for just a second. Feeling the strength of your body, feeling the connection to the mat, connection to the breath. As slowly as you can, we'll lower down to the mat. Coming up into cobra or upward facing dog, whatever's in your practice. Melting it back down, curling the toes under, pressing back up for plank, and sending the hips back up for downward dog. Once you get there, shake out the head and neck if it feels good, pedal through the feet if it feels good. Maybe find stillness, whatever your body's asking you for. Reconnect with the breath, and then we'll plant that right foot somewhere near the middle of the mat. Lifting those left toes, left foot up high, really reaching. Checking in with your range there, noticing what you feel, challenging the balance. We'll bend into that left knee, drop the left heel toward the right shoulder this time, and just pull that left knee up toward the ceiling, opening up through that hip. Lift the gaze to between the palms, and we'll bring that left foot all the way up and through to be planted there. Lowering that right knee to the mat, uncurling the foot, and taking any variation of this low lunge that you want to. So feel free to explore. If you just want to rest here, press into that right hip, feel the compression in the left hip. Feel free. If you want to incorporate a mini back bend or a side body stretch, feel free. Wherever you are, stay connected to the breath. This is your space, your practice, your time. So let go of anything that's not useful to you here and now. If you are in that mini back bend from this pose, you can bend into the elbows, draw the elbows toward one another behind the back, to open up through the chest and notice what you feel in the upper back. Or feel free to stay in this low lunge as you are. When you're ready to transition, sync up with your breath. We'll curl the right toes under and lift that right knee, sending that left foot back for plank, just so you can show yourself how strong you are. Nice long line from the crown of the head all the way through the heels this time. And sometimes when I'm in plank, I like to roll forward and backward across the feet, just to further stretch through the feet and the toes. You can also find stillness here. And when you're ready, we're going to slowly lower all the way down to the belly for cobra or upward facing dog, whatever's in your practice. And then sending the hips up toward the sky, toward the ceiling, coming back into that downward dog. So check in downward dog. Notice if your alignment has changed. Maybe you've gained a little flexibility through just that pose alone, and maybe not. That's okay too. From there, we'll slowly walk the feet up the tightrope through the middle of the mat to come into our standing forward fold. My favorite self-care pose. Take your time getting there. It's about the journey, not the destination. So make sure you enjoy that part too. Once you're in your standing forward fold, you know what to do. There's multiple variations here. You can just find stillness if you want to. Reconnect with the breath. You can also clasp opposite biceps or opposite elbows. You can sway gently left to right. Take what you need. A lot of these variations are probably intuitive to you as we move, so try not to think about it too much and just listen to your body. You can also press into the fingertips, walk them over to the left side, frame that left foot, checking in with the hamstrings, posterior chain. You can do the same on the second side. Another variation I like is just to lift the feet if you're comfortable doing so and slide the palms under. So you're standing on your palms basically. Relax through the head and neck. Notice how that changes the sensations of this pose if you try it. Take your time here. When you're ready, we'll come back to that neutral forward fold, palms on the mat or fingertips on the mat, or maybe just towards the mat, depending on where you are. And then let's heel toe the feet to the outside edges of the mat. Just letting the toes spill off the mat on the left and to the right. And we'll come into a little yogi squat here. One of my favorite transitions. Bringing the elbows to the inside of the knees, palms together at the heart. Checking in once again with the breath. Remember your mantra. Quiet the mind, find your focus. Take your time here. Just enjoying the fullness of your breath and the space you've created for yourself. Turn inward. When you're ready, you can release the hands to the mat if you need to, or just bring the hands forward, bring the sits bones down to the mat. We'll extend the legs out in front. Moving slowly, moving mindfully. Just coming into staff pose from here, nice long spine. Palms are on the mat to the left and to the right of the hips. Take a minute just to reconnect with the breath. And then we're going to fold here too, so when you're ready, do so as you see fit. You can start by bringing the palms toward the ceiling, facing one another. Really getting long through the spine, connecting with the breath, and then melting forward, imagining the hands going beyond the feet, even if they don't. And then from here, you can bring your hands to the outside edges of the feet, or maybe just palms to the mat on the outside edges of the shins or ankles. Not forcing anything, but just checking in that seated forward fold. Notice the power of your breath, the fullness of your breath. That expansion through the upper back. The way the breath changes the sensations of the body, and the power of the breath in movement. When we come out of this pose, we'll do so gently, so just planting, rooting down through the sits bones, pressing the tailbone into the mat, and slowly articulating up through the lumbar spine, then the thoracic, and then it finally extending through the neck, rolling the shoulders back, finding that nice, long, neutral posture. Let's bring the ankles in for a cross-legged seat, just so we can roll forward once again. Feel free to center yourself on the mat if you need to. Take your time getting there. And when you're ready, we'll thread the needle. So we'll start by planting that left palm just under the center of the chest. We're going to drag the right fingertips along that left arm, across the chest, and up toward the ceiling, opening up, checking in with your range, noticing what you feel, and connecting with the breath. On your next exhale, let's bring the fingertips under that left arm, coming down to the mat, onto that right shoulder, right ear, right tricep. Feel free to slide that left hand up toward the top left corner of the mat. Breathe deep. Notice what you feel. Take your time here, turn inward. Enjoy this little bubble you've created for yourself. Make sure the hips are square, not pulling over to the left, so maybe press them over to the right a bit. When you're ready to switch sides, do so at your own pace. Start by drawing that left palm in to just under the left shoulder, pressing into the mat. And as you unravel, check in with that range again, bringing right palm up toward the ceiling. Notice what's changed, if anything. And then bring it back down to the mat. Slowly, gently, mindfully planting it under the right shoulder and then planting it under the middle of the chest for the second side. We'll drag the left fingertips along the edge of the right arm, across the chest, up toward the ceiling, checking in with your range there. And then bringing those left fingertips under the right arm, coming down onto that left shoulder, left ear, left triceps. You'll be sliding that right hand up toward the top right corner of the mat. Checking in with the hips, maybe pressing them over to the left a little. Really leveraging the breath for that expansive stretch through the upper back. Enjoy the fullness of your breath in this pose. And the self-care space you've created for yourself. When you feel satisfied on this side, drag that right palm back in under the right shoulder, pressing into that palm to unravel, checking in again with your range of motion. And slowly bringing that left palm back down to the mat. Let's come back into downward dog and then maybe into a pigeon pose. Check in with the hips, spend some time there. So if you're following that, back in the tabletop position, we'll curl the toes under, send the hips back up toward the sky. To get into pigeon, you can do the same thing we did in the first downward dog, just by coming into three-legged dog, planting that left foot, sliding the right foot all the way up toward the ceiling. Feel free to bend into that right knee if you want to. Otherwise, we're just going to bring that right knee all the way up and through. Coming into our pigeon variation, right knee is bent. In the upright version of this, make sure that the hips are square before you fold forward. Extending long through that left leg, feeling that connection to the mat everywhere. And then remember, if it's way too intense, you can bring the right heel closer to the right hip. So just like bringing that heel in closer toward the body before you fold. When you feel comfortable and grounded, we'll hinge at the hips, walk the hands forward, coming down onto that right knee or right shin, maybe stacking palms or stacking your fists or using a block under the forehead if it feels good, whatever you need. Settling into whatever variation of pigeon you can comfortably rest in for a couple of minutes. Reconnect with the breath. Notice what you feel and where without getting overwhelmed. Try to make sure the body is not rolling over to the right side, but that you're nice and square through the hips. And that you're able to breathe deep. If you're not able to breathe deep in this pose, I would try bringing that heel in as close as you can toward the body. And if that's still uncomfortable, just stay in the upright version of this pose. Take this time to turn inward, to observe and quiet the mind. To reconnect with the breath or your mantra. And just to enjoy this space that you've created for yourself. Take a couple more cycles of breath here. Just giving yourself that space. And when you feel content on this side, you can release the palms to the mat if they're not already there. Gently press into the mat, walk the fingertips back up toward the body. Find that upright pigeon before we transition. And then sink your weight into the palms or fingertips. Curl the left toes under to unravel. Sending that right leg back, coming back into your downward dog. Slowly, gently, mindfully. Move like you're just waking up. Feel free to pedal through the feet once again if it feels good. When you're ready, plant that right foot somewhere near the center of the mat. Slide the left toes, left foot up toward the ceiling. Checking in with your range, maybe bending into that left knee, dropping that left heel toward the right shoulder. And then lifting the gaze to between the palms. We'll lead with that left knee all the way up and through. Coming down to the mat, extending through that right leg, walking the right toes back. Finding that upright posture before you fold, just checking in with that degree of flexion in the knee, adjusting as needed. Opening it up or bringing it closer, whatever you need to feel comfortable. Checking in that your body is not pulling or leaning over to the left. So nice and square through the hips here. We'll walk the hands forward, hinge at the hips, and melt down over that second side. Again, grab a block, stack your fists, stack your palms, whatever feels right. Turn inward as much as possible. Let go of what you don't need here. Take this time to get comfortable in your body and breathe into the sensations that you're experiencing. Remember that we can't serve others until we take care of ourselves. Self-care is community care. Checking in with the mind and the body are really important. Creating this loving, gentle space for your own self-care is important. Remember, if it's way too intense or way too uncomfortable to stay in this pose, you can bring the heel in toward the body or stay in the upright version of this pose. If you start to lose focus, just reconnect with the sound of the breath. And allow yourself just to be here now. When you feel content on this side, we will slowly transition out, taking your time, batting the eyes open if they're closed, bringing the palms to the mat, walking the fingertips up for the upright version of this pose, before sinking your weight into the palms, curling the right toes under, and unraveling the left leg. We'll send it all the way back for plank from here. Take a second in plank. Recognize your strength as we slowly lower to the belly, all the way down, slow as you can go. Once we're there, we'll set up for Sphinx pose, just coming onto the forearms, extending through the feet, feeling connected to the mat, pulling the shoulders back, maybe taking a deep breath. And then from here, let's bring that left forearm to the outside edge of the left side of the mat, keeping that left elbow bent at 90 degrees. From there, we'll bring the right palm under the right shoulder and just use it to guide you up onto stacked hips, knees, and ankles. Feel free to bend at the knees if you want to. Get comfortable through the low body. And just start to check in with the chest, left side chest and left shoulder. So you can just rest here in the passive version of this stretch. Or you might have a lot of sensation right here where you are. You can also press into the right fingertips and just pull your right shoulder back a little more. Notice what you feel there. Remember, not forcing anything, just checking in with what the body's asking for. For a little more intensity, you can also lift that right foot off of the stacked knees, hips, and ankles, and just set that right foot down behind you, pulling that right knee open. Again, just noticing what you feel, not forcing anything. Taking any variation that speaks to you. Breathing deep into that left shoulder, left side chest. Releasing something on your exhale. Take your time on that side and transition to the other when you're ready, only when you're ready. We'll transition by bringing that right palm under the right shoulder, just extending through the knees, hips, and ankles, rolling back onto the belly, resetting in Sphinx pose, slowly, gently, mindfully. Take a deep breath. And then we'll bring that right forearm to the outside edge of the right side of the mat, keeping that right elbow at 90 degrees. Dragging that left hand under the left shoulder and pressing in to help guide us onto stacked knees, hips, and ankles on that second side. So feel free to take any variation that feels right. Checking in, noticing how you feel, noticing what's different on this side, if anything. Take your time and enjoy. If you start to lose focus, just reconnect with the breath. Stay here for a couple more cycles of breath. Stay here as long as you'd like, or feel free to transition out. We'll go back into Sphinx. Start by extending through the knees, rolling onto the belly, coming back up onto the forearms. And then from here, I want to go into a little froggy stretch as the start of our cool down. So you can just come up onto all fours, however you get there. Take your time, and then we'll widen the distance between the knees. From here, we'll come down onto the forearms again. You can keep the palms down or come onto your fists or interlace your fingers, whatever feels good. And then we're gonna face the toes, point the toes away from one another. So check in once you're there. Toes pointed in opposite directions, nice wide stance through the hips. And then adjust that distance between the knees for whatever you need. So if you need more intensity, walk the knees further apart. Less intensity, bring the knees closer together. And from here, gently, very gently, you might rock forward and backward really slowly. You never want to bounce in any kind of static stretching, but gentle movement can make it a productive, dynamic pose. So either find stillness or gently lean the body forward and backward on the mat, noticing what you feel, this time in the inner hip. A little counter stretch to our pigeon pose. Take your time here, stay as long as you'd like. And then I also want to offer puppy pose as another alternative or as your next pose. So for that, you can walk the knees a little closer together, coming onto the shins, extending through the feet, walking the hands a little bit wider than the shoulders, kind of like you would in downward dog, and then just pressing the chest, the forehead down to the mat. Feel free to recenter yourself if you need to. You can either stay nice and passive here, just relaxing, letting everything hang down, or you can engage the abdominals to kind of straighten out through the back, pressing the elbows and the armpits down toward the earth for a big stretch through the upper back. Just incorporate your breath there, breathe deep. When you're ready to come out, and only when you're ready, slide the palms up under the shoulders. We'll cross at the ankles and roll back into a comfortable cross-legged seat at your own pace. So I'm going to end this practice in this cross-legged seat with a little more meditation just to close. I'm going to skip Shavasana today, but if you want it, take it after this class. Take your time there. I always encourage at least 5 to 10 minutes just in a quiet meditation there, or you can go into Shavasana right now, whatever you prefer. Either way, we're going to settle back into our bodies. Once again, quieting the mind, if it's not already. Noticing the breath. Noticing the sensations of the body as you absorb the nutrients of your practice. Check in. Notice if there's any mind chatter, any noise that you can't quiet, and if that's the case, I would encourage you to take a longer meditation after this practice. If the mind is quiet, make sure you're relaxed through the skin of the face, not tensing through the neck or the shoulders, the hands, the feet, the glutes, not holding. Just giving yourself these few more quiet moments. Turn inward. Maybe connect with the non-duality or oneness of the universe and you. Or maybe just enjoying a refreshed state of the physical body, whatever you're here for. As always, when you're in these meditative poses, feel free to incorporate a mudra with the hands if it's part of your practice. You can also connect with the body just by placing the hands anywhere on the chest, on the belly, on the hips, on the knees. Or just resting your hands gently in your lap. Notice the quality of your breath and if it's changed since the beginning of the practice. And just check in once again with the pious bodies. Physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual bodies. Just observing. If you're still hanging on to the past or the future, just cast that aside. And be here now. If it feels right to do so, you can bring palms together to rest gently at the forehead or third eye as we begin to close this practice. Before we close, we want to recognize that I am currently teaching this class from unceded Monongahela, Osage, and Erie lands, the indigenous people that occupied this land before us. So we recognize and honor their struggles, both past and present. If you're practicing from the same lands that I am, there's a good opportunity to support that ongoing struggle for liberation and land back by connecting with Council of the Three Rivers American Indian Center. I encourage you to look up whose land you are on if you're not here in Pittsburgh. Spiritually, we also want to recognize that yoga is an ancient spiritual practice tied to the subcontinent of India and stemming from Indian culture. So we pay respect to and honor that as well. We also recognize that yoga is many things to many peoples of the world, including a community. Thank you so much for being part of my community today. I hope you got what you needed here today, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.